In the opening scene, a young boy named Amada is utterly captivated by the movie The Skies of Aquaria playing in the theater. He's so engrossed that he doesn't even notice when his father enters the room. Curious, Amada's father wonders aloud why his son is so enamored with this particular film, questioning whether it's the lead actress Alicia, who plays the character Sylphie, that has captured Amada's attention. Despite Amada's clear love for the movie, it seems to have a rather small audience. Later, as Amada is cleaning the theater, he spots a girl sitting alone, equally transfixed by the same film. She's even shedding tears, so moved by the on-screen events. Amada approaches her, and is struck by her resemblance to the actress Alicia. They introduce themselves. The girl is Mikono Suzushiro, and the two immediately hit it off. As they continue chatting, Amada becomes increasingly excited, nearly lifting off the ground. He excuses himself, retreating to his room, where he opens a panel on his leg and inserts 3 metal plates. Rejoining Mikono, the two take a boat ride, discussing the abductors, causing trouble and kidnapping people on their planet, Vega. During their conversation, Amada reaches out to touch Mikono, prompting a flying cat named Shushu to leap from Mikono's hair and attack Amada, seemingly intent on protecting its owner. Later, as they pause to admire the park's scenery, Mikono mentions a hidden academy that trains elements, people with special powers chosen to pilot Icarias. Once more, Amada's excitement causes him to excuse himself, this time heading to the restroom. Just then, the ominous silhouettes of abductor robots appear in the sky, descending upon the city in a terrifying assault. The robotic intruders begin attacking, kidnapping hapless citizens. But before the situation spirals out of control, the heroic M-type Aquarias spring into action, engaging the abductors in a fierce aerial battle. Amada rushes back to where Mikono is waiting, and together they watch the unfolding conflict from above. Suddenly, a massive abductor emerges, its pilot displaying a level of skill that shocks the Aquaria pilots. The M-types seem powerless against this formidable foe. At the command center, an urgent order comes down. Deploy the F-type Aquarias to provide backup. This is an unprecedented move, as the M-types and F-types have never before fought side by side. The F-types arrive and manage to support their counterparts, but they must be cautious not to accidentally merge with the male pilots. Even with the combined forces of the M and F-types, the hulking abductor continues to outmaneuver them, gracefully evading their attacks while inflicting damage. During the intense battle, a collapsing statue threatens to crush Mikono, but Amada bravely shields her, taking the full brunt of the impact. With the Aquarias subdued, the abductor looms over them, poised for the kill, but then it senses something behind it, Amada and Mikono, standing together. The Aquarias try to defend them, only to be suddenly ejected from their robots. Realizing the danger, Amada makes a fateful decision. He removes the metal plates from his legs, reducing his weight, and takes to the skies, carrying Mikono to safety. This unexpected display of power shocks the abductor's pilot. Mikono and Amada find themselves inside a mysterious vector's cockpit. Amada then reveals a power he has been concealing. He calls out the forbidden name Aquarian. Immediately, his vector fuses with the other vectors and their pilots, overriding the stone that had prevented this process. The vectors all come together, forming a colossal unified vector that towers over the city, ready to turn the tide of the battle. In a quick scene, we learn that the menacing abductors hail from another planet or dimension. The precise reason for their invasion remains shrouded in mystery, but it's clear they possess advanced technologies on par with Earth's. The organization tasked with defending against this extraterrestrial threat is known as Neo-Diava. They field 2 distinct types of Aquarias, the F-type for female pilots, and the M-type for their male counterparts. However, a mysterious stone barrier prevents these 2 vectors from merging together. These element pilots are housed in separate dormitories, divided by what's referred to as the Berlin Wall. The males are strictly forbidden from accessing the female quarters, and vice versa. As the male elements engage in training, they suddenly receive an alert. The abductors have arrived. The pilots begin to feel a powerful sensation as the vectors merge, an experience they've never encountered before. This merging is strictly prohibited due to the same stone barrier that separates the F-types and M-types. But now, with Amada at the helm, the giant unified vector stands tall, ready to confront the abductor threat. The pilot of the enemy robot is drawn to someone within the Aquaria, and a sinister smile spreads across their face, as if they've found their true target. Mikono is stunned to find herself inside the vector's cockpit. Cayenne, one of the pilots, communicates with them, mistakenly believing Amada is a terrorist who has hijacked the vector. Mikono vehemently argues that Amada is not a terrorist, but rather the one who saved her. Cayenne urgently informs headquarters that there are civilians, Amada and Mikono, inside the Aquarian robot. They attempt to sever the connection, but to no avail. The commander then reveals a startling truth. Aquarian is a different entity from the standard Aquarius, a perfect form capable of withstanding both male and female pilots, unlike the gender-specific vectors. As the abductor continues its relentless assault on the Aquarian, Amada struggles to maintain control, his inexperience leaving openings for the enemy. But instinctively, Amada activates a powerful energy blast from the Aquarian's head, forcing the abductor back. Those at the base are left wondering just who Amada is, for only someone truly special could have synchronized so seamlessly with the Aquarian. The abductor returns with reinforcements, pushing the Aquarian to the ground. The lead abductor pilot, whose name is revealed as Kagura, is then ordered to retreat, but he stubbornly refuses, determined to continue the fight. As the abductors press their attack, one of the female pilots, Jessica, is forced to guide Amada in wielding the Aquarian's weapons. With a single push of his hand, Amada is able to effortlessly destroy the abductor reinforcements, stunning everyone as Jessica's element resonates with his own. Now free from those who sought to recall him, Kagura turns his sights on the Aquarian once more. Cayenne's powers, amplified by the Aquarian effect, grant him a vision of the future, a wedding with a funeral procession, where Mikono is the bride and the groom appears to be none other than Kagura. Kagura unleashes a relentless assault on the Aquarian, using metal debris to pin the mighty robot down. Cayenne begins to blame Amada for the unfolding chaos, a reminder to the young man of his troubled past. Always an outcast, shunned by others because of his extraordinary powers. But this time is different. Mikono stands steadfastly by Amada's side, her unwavering support igniting a surge of determination within him. Subconsciously, Amada powers up the Aquarian, and the robot breaks free from its metallic bonds, soaring up into the sky. Seizing the initiative, the Aquarian grabs hold of the abductor and pushes it higher, into the reaches of space. Amada's mastery of gravity manipulation allows the Aquarian to take flight, and he hurls the abductor into a distant space rock. Undeterred, Kagura charges at the Aquarian once more, but a dimensional portal suddenly opens, and he is ordered to return home. Though he struggles against the pull, the portal's force is too great, and Kagura is dragged through, back to his own world. The Aquarian then plummets back to Earth, and Mikono and Amada are rescued from the mighty robot. But Amada is unconscious after the ordeal, and plans are made to take him to the academy. Meanwhile, Kagura reaches his home planet and declares to his people that he has found the woman he desires. On the abductor's home planet of Altair, the leader Izumo informs his assistant Jin that the Iguras they sent to Vega have lost much of their functionality during transit. Most have become virtually useless. Izumo explains that they need the Iguras for an important purpose back on Altair, and decides to put Jin in charge of the operations, anticipating Kagura may object. Back in Vega, Amada awakens in a strange room, coming face to face with Cayenne. Amada begins asking questions, and Cayenne summarizes the key details. Amada is now in Neo Diava, the academy where elements are trained to pilot the Aquarias. Cayenne explains that their mission is to repel the abductors who have invaded from another dimension. This answers most of Amada's queries, and now Cayenne must show him around the academy. In the classroom, Amada sees that he has become a popular figure, able to pilot an Aquaria without training and even merge the vectors together. Cayenne then takes Amada to the cafeteria, where he notices the Berlin Wall separating the male and female academies. Cayenne informs Amada that he has been brought here to undergo testing, just as Mikono is being evaluated in the female area. Amada expresses a desire to know more about Mikono, but Cayenne refuses to share details. Cayenne then questions Amada about his relationship with Mikono, relieved to learn they have just recently met and are not romantically involved. Cayenne speaks of his role in always protecting his sister from harm. The two nearly come to blows when Amada speaks of Mikono in a romantic manner, but their argument is interrupted by instructor Donar's voice. Donar orders Amada not to eat, as he will be undergoing an aptitude test to determine if he will be allowed to remain at the academy. Amada's actions the previous day have elevated the status of the Aquaria to that of the legendary Aquarian. Moments later, Amada is taken to the lab for his aptitude test. The results reveal that his power is gravity manipulation, which explains his ability to fly. This power seems to activate when Amada experiences emotional distress or the need to protect someone he cares about. However, the commander is troubled, as the test results do not explain how the Guy's Stone was destroyed. Further analysis uncovers buried memories of Aquarian within Amada's mind. But before the psychoanalysis can be completed, the machine suddenly malfunctions and stops working. Someone has interfered to prevent the test from finishing. Meanwhile, in the female academy, Jessica, who had merged with the male pilots, begins sharing her experience with the other girls. They are all intrigued and eager to merge with a boy as well, but the class president, Mix, reminds them that such fraternization is strictly forbidden, the reason for the Berlin Wall separating the academies. When Mix questions Mikono, the girl provides vague answers, only revealing that she no longer lives with her brother, Cayenne. Mix assumes Mikono must also possess elemental powers, as they run in her family. That night, as Amada tries to sleep, he hears the sound of a piano playing. Curious, he ventures outside the dorm, only to fall into a pit dug by another cadet, Andy. Andy's elemental power allows him to easily burrow through the soil, and he reveals he's been digging to reach the female dorm. Amada offers to help, driven by his desire to see Mikono. They quickly make their way through the tunnel, and Amada is surprised to find Mikono standing there. causing her to become flustered and run away. The two boys hastily retreat back into the hole before being discovered. The following morning, the commander announces the 3 pilots selected for the monthly battle simulation: Cayenne, Andy, and the newcomer, Amada. This shocks everyone, as Amada is still a fresh recruit. When the simulation begins, Amada is initially not taking it seriously, but changes his attitude when he realizes the girls are watching. Activating his gravity manipulation powers, Amada effortlessly fuses with the other vectors, unleashing a powerful burst of energy that destroys the enemies, forcing the simulation to end prematurely. Meanwhile, on the abductor's home planet of Altair, they appear to be awaiting the emergence of a man named Sir My Cage. Donar is informed that Mikono will be sent home, as the tests have revealed she possesses no elemental powers. Donar also mentions an Aquarian tragedy from years past, a topic he prefers not to discuss. As Mikono prepares to leave, she feels saddened at the prospect of not being able to say goodbye to Amada. Zessica approaches her, revealing that Amada had apologized to Mikono during the simulation battle. Zessica teases Mikono, suggesting she must have a strong hold over Amada for him to go to such lengths. Meanwhile, Andy discovers that the hole he had dug to the female dorm has been filled and sealed, likely by a power user. He suspects one of the girls is responsible, but Amada wonders if it might actually be a male student behind the ceiling. Amada hears the same piano tune he had heard the previous day and inquires about it. Andy informs him that the player is Shrade, considered the top student in the academy. Eager to meet him, Amada heads to the room where Shrade is playing. Shrade is not surprised to see Amada, as if he had been expecting the young man. As Amada and Shrade are getting acquainted, Cayenne bursts into the room, clearly angry and intent on confronting Amada for his actions during the simulation training. Shrade warns Cayenne that he does not allow fighting in his domain, but Cayenne disregards the warning, grabbing Amada by the neck. As Cayenne grabs Amada by the neck, Shrade begins to play his piano, the music affecting Cayenne psychologically. The haunting melody causes Cayenne to see a vision of his sister dying. Andy explains to Amada that Shrade's elemental power allows him to touch people's minds through sound. When Shrade stops playing, Cayenne regains control, but immediately tries to attack the pianist. However, Shrade effortlessly dodges the assault. Suddenly, an alarm blares, warning of abductor activity in a nearby area. The elements are summoned to respond, with Andy, Cayenne, and Amada selected as the pilots. The trio quickly merge to form the mighty Aquarian. Meanwhile, Mikono is on a boat, leaving the academy, when she learns of the abductor threat. She feels a sense of unease, worried for Amada's safety. On the battlefield, the Aquarian finds itself surrounded by enemy forces, moving with unprecedented speed. It becomes clear there is a hidden commander orchestrating the attack. Someone suggests using their trump card, Shrade. As the pianist plays a haunting melody, it allows Cayenne to pinpoint the location of the puppet master, Jin, who is hiding in space, attached to one of the stars. Jin is using the battle to gather data. The Aquarian has no means to reach Jin in his distant hiding spot. Worse, the abductors have surrounded the mighty robot, their weapons already hooked into it. The Aquarian is trapped, with no apparent avenue of escape. Suddenly, the boat transporting Mikono changes course and heads back towards the academy. The driver, his face obscured by a hat, grabs Mikono and takes her to the operations room. There, he barges in and demands that Andy be ejected from the Aquarian to be replaced by Mikono. Donar rushes to intervene, only to remove the driver's disguise and reveal him as their supreme commander, Zen Fudo. Zen insists that Mikono must board the Aquarian, arguing that her mere presence will provide the boost Amada and Cayenne need. He explains that the two pilots will be driven to go beyond their limits to protect her, a primal instinct that will awaken their true potential. Reluctantly, Mikono agrees, and she is swiftly substituted for Andy. Cayenne and Amada are surprised to see Mikono, but she tells Amada that she forgives him for the earlier incident. This allows them to reawaken the Aquarian. However, Cayenne worries for Mikono's safety, as he has always had a vision of something terrible happening to her near the Aquarian, but Mikono reassures her brother that she will be fine. Mikono joins hands with Amada, and the Aquarian's heart begins to beat. The mighty robot then uses a technique called the Mugen Punch, extending its arm into space to chase away Jin, the abductor commander who had been hiding among the stars, gathering data. Jin manages to escape, but he is confident that Izumo will be pleased with the information he has collected. The Aquarian's extended arm eventually reaches the academy, breaking through the Berlin Wall that had separated the male and female dormitories. The students on both sides are about to rush towards each other when Zen announces that romance is strictly prohibited. Meanwhile, on the abductor's home planet of Altair, a figure known as Sir My Cage awakens, his presence hinting at even greater challenges to come. As the students continue to voice their complaints about Zen's prohibition on romance, the director arrives, surprising everyone with her youthful appearance. Miss Suomi questions the commander about the director's absence, and he reveals that both Zen and the director have been on separate journeys to uncover the mysteries surrounding Aquarian. The director then begins to explain the story behind Aquarian, a tale of two ill-fated lovers, Sylphie and Apollon, whose excess of power led to a great destruction 12 years ago. This power has been kept hidden since then. But now, with the enemy growing stronger, they may have to rely on it once more. Donar seems to have a deeper understanding of this complex history. Meanwhile, on Altair, Jin is summoned by his superior, Izumo, to discuss the data he collected from Vega. They observe the new techniques used by the Aquaria in their recent battle. Just then, Izumo learns that Kagura has left the planet and is heading to Vega alone. But Izumo decides not to stop him. At that moment, a dimensional gate opens, and Izumo realizes that the enigmatic figure known as Sir Maikaj has awakened. Back in Vega, the male and female students are attending their first joint class together. Andy, in particular, is thrilled to finally be around girls, a prospect he has long anticipated. Even Amada finds himself blushing at the sight of Mikono, but his moment of distraction is abruptly interrupted by a dart hitting him in the rear, snapping him out of his emotional reverie. As the class continues, the students are informed that they will be taking a trip to the city, where they will explore the tower and harbor areas. The teacher begins calling out the group assignments, with 3 students per group. Andy finds himself in Group C, along with Mix and Yunoha. Mix is not particularly popular among the male students, which could pose a challenge for the eager Andy. As the students gather, they start receiving random electric shocks from the bracelets they have been outfitted with. The final group consists of Amada, Zessica, and Mikono. They soon arrive at the designated separation point, and the students are reminded to return to the boat before it departs. However, the electric shocks from the bracelets continue, much to the students' discomfort. In the operations room, it is revealed that the bracelets are designed to measure the students' emotional states. This is part of the director's plan to prevent the formation of strong emotional connections among the students. Whenever the bracelet detects a student's emotions rising too high, it delivers a shock to curb the intensity. The director then discloses the tragic love story between Donar and his late lover, Nonanon. Their powerful love ultimately led to disaster, with Nonanon's death and Donar losing both of his arms. While love can enhance the Aquarian's fighting capabilities, the director is cautious about it, fearing a repeat of the past tragedy. The bracelets are meant to keep the students from becoming emotionally attached, a lesson Donar learned the hard way. As Amada's group explores the city, he finds himself floating whenever he gets close to Mikono, a reaction triggered by his romantic feelings for her. Donar, monitoring the situation from afar, repeatedly shoots Amada with darts to keep him grounded, worried that he may not have enough ammunition to maintain control. Meanwhile, it is revealed that Kagura has infiltrated Vega and is searching for Mikono. Later, as Amada's group visits an arcade, Mikono angrily walks away after witnessing Amada float for Zessica once more. Amada chases after her. Their pursuit leads them to the top of a tower, where the scenery evokes memories of a beloved movie they both cherish. A mysterious man on the rooftop begins to play a romantic melody, drawing Amada and Mikono closer together. The bracelet on Mikono's wrist starts to throb, indicating the rising intensity of her emotions. Those monitoring the situation in the operations room realize that Mikono is developing genuine romantic feelings, and Donar is powerless to intervene. As Amada and Mikono's love blossoms, Kagura suddenly appears and forcibly drags Mikono away from Amada. In the process, Mikono faints, not from the power of love, but from the electric shock delivered by her bracelet. Zen and the others quickly understand that this was not a natural collapse, but rather the result of a forbidden encounter. As soon as the authorities learn of an abductor presence in the city, all the elements are ordered to return to the academy immediately. Cayenne is reluctant to leave, knowing his sister Mikono is in danger, but Shrade reminds him of his duty as a fighter, urging him not to let his emotions cloud his judgment. Shrade offers to stay behind and provide assistance. On the tower, Amada tries to protect the unconscious Mikono from the menacing Kagura. Kagura claims Mikono as his own and warns Amada not to interfere. However, Amada is determined to save Mikono, and he pushes Kagura. Amada quickly grabs Mikono and jumps off the tower, wings suddenly appearing beneath his feet, allowing him to fly away with her to safety. Kagura considers chasing after them, but suddenly feels a sharp pain in his head. He turns to see Shrade playing a guitar, using the instrument to disrupt Kagura's mind. Meanwhile, on Altair, Izumo and Jin are in a meeting when Maikaj appears to them via holographic display. Maikaj reveals that he was the one who helped Kagura open the gate to Vega, as Kagura claims to be pursuing a rare Igura. Maikaj wants to see how powerful and unique this Igura is. After Maikage departs, Izumo instructs Jin to keep a close eye on Kagura, and if necessary, they will forcibly take his suit, Mithragonis, from him. Kagura then goes to one of the pods in the facility, revealing that Alicia is being kept inside. Back on Vega, Kagura attempts to attack Shrade, but the skilled pianist effortlessly evades the assault. Frustrated, Kagura decides to abandon the fight and escape, determined to pursue Mikono as well. As Zessica and the rest of the team head back to the academy, She questions Donar about why Shrade is not allowed to participate in the battles. Donar then shares Shrade's tragic backstory. Shrade has had a deep love for music since childhood, but his music has a profoundly negative effect on people. This power led to the elimination of his own parents. Afterward, Shrade was taken in by unscrupulous individuals who exploited his abilities, turning him into an agent of destruction. Eventually, he was personally recruited by the director. However, Donar reveals that Shrade's life is shortened every time he pilots the Aquarian. His power is too great for the machine to resonate with, which is why he has been removed from the roster of active pilots. Meanwhile, Kagura is scouring the city in search of Mikono and Amada. Deciding to use his powerful suit, he dons the Mithra Gneiss just as the Aquarian arrives on the scene. Cayenne recognizes the suit as the same monster they had faced before. As Kagura traverses the city in his formidable suit, the Aquarias find it difficult to stop him. Cayenne's aircraft is knocked against a wall by Kagura's onslaught. Meanwhile, Mikono and Amada are hiding in an abandoned house, while Zessica tries, unsuccessfully, to lure Kagura out of the city. Moments later, Kagura locates Amata and Mikono, intent on capturing them. Cayenne has managed to free himself from the wall he was trapped against, but his arm is now broken, making it difficult for him to pilot his vector effectively. Seeing this, Shrade volunteers to take over for Cayenne, despite the latter's hesitation about the dangers involved. Shrade takes control of the vector, and Cayenne is ejected. To further shift the tide of the battle, Andy is also removed from the Aquarian, allowing Amada to take command of the vector. Amada urges Mikono to leave the area for her own safety. The authorities are deeply concerned about Shrade piloting a vector, aware of the risks involved. The vectors then combine to form the mighty Aquarian, with Shrade's immense power enhancing Zessica and Amada's abilities, creating a new and formidable version of the mecha. The transformed Aquarian stands defiantly in front of Kagura and his powerful Mithra Gneiss suit, charging forward to deliver a devastating blow. Shrade appears visibly exhausted from the strain of the fight, while Kagura's suit sustains significant damage from Shrade's energy-infused attack. Despite knowing he is likely outmatched, Kagura is determined to continue the battle. However, just then, Jin appears and forcefully takes Kagura back to Altair. Mikono watches as Kagura is pulled into the sky and disappears into space. In the aftermath, Shrade becomes unresponsive inside the Vector's cockpit, the toll of his immense power taking a heavy toll on him. Later, the director visits Shrade in the hospital, trying to convince him to stop risking his life so recklessly. However, Shrade doesn't seem to care about the danger. He just wants to use his powerful abilities without fear of the consequences. Back at the academy, Andy protests that the boys and girls should be allowed to sit together, believing there should be a connection between them. Most of the male students agree with Andy and support his idea. The girls also mostly concur, except for Mix, who insists that boys are impure and girls should not associate with them. The teacher decides to hold a ballot to choose their seating partners, and the eager Andy hopes this will finally give him a chance to sit with a girl. The ballot is prepared, and each student selects their partner. Amada and Mikono end up sitting together, while Andy's bad luck continues as he is paired with Mix, the worst possible outcome for him. Cayenne and Shrade are also assigned as partners. Meanwhile, Cayenne goes to pick up Shrade from the hospital. Shrade affectionately calls Cayenne his good friend, while Cayenne still views him as a bit of a jerk. Next to Andy's seat, there is a spot occupied by a mysterious stuffed animal. The students wonder who it belongs to, and Andy remembers a rumor about the item. Apparently, there was once a female student at the academy who was always alone and had no friends. The loneliness became too much for her, and one day she disappeared from the school. The stuffed animal was her only companion, and it is said to be seen wandering the campus at night. However, Zessica dismisses the rumor as nonsense. Back on Altair, Jin is busy running battle simulations, using the data he has collected to improve his suit and weaponry. Meanwhile, Kagura has been grounded, and will likely remain so for the foreseeable future. That night, Amada is cleaning the classroom when he notices Zessica waiting for him. After he finishes his task, he realizes Zessica is still there, wanting them to leave the academic building together. As they approach the door, they find it locked, and Amada senses Zessica's unease, understanding she is scared. As they walk through the dimly lit hallway, they encounter the mysterious stuffed animal, startling them both. Zessica instinctively grabs onto Amada, and they flee in fear. Meanwhile, Mikono is in the courtyard, lost in thought about Kagura. She witnesses Amada and Zessica running out of the building, hand in hand, and immediately assumes they are involved in a romantic entanglement. The next day, Zessica and Amada try to describe their strange encounter to their classmates, but Mikono interrupts them, accusingly questioning whether they are lovers. Amada is shocked by Mikono's jealous outburst, but there is no time to address it, as the abductors have appeared once again, and they must prepare for battle. Cayenne, Zessica, and Amada are dispatched to engage the enemy. The enemy ship seems more powerful than those they have faced in the past. Zen instructs them to avoid direct hits and to fly low while engaging the target. Unbeknownst to them, Jin is the one controlling the enemy ship from a safe location on Altair. Aquarian soon takes a direct hit from the enemy, causing their energy levels to plummet and the mecha to sustain critical damage. Forced to split up into their individual vectors for better maneuverability, the team needs a solution to their predicament. Just then, the commander suggests an element change, substituting Andy for Yunoha. It is revealed that Yunoha is the mysterious stuffed animal. The stuffed animal transforms into a girl and takes the pilot seat, shocking her comrades as she speaks to them. Yunoha apologizes for frightening Amada and Zesika the previous night, and assures Mikono that there is nothing romantic between the two. She asks her teammates to trust her and fight alongside her. With Yunoha's inclusion, the vectors merge once again to form Aquarian. Jin, confident in his ability to defeat them, unleashes a powerful blast, but it passes harmlessly through the mecha. Yunoha's unique power has granted them transparency, rendering them invulnerable to the enemy's attacks. Aquarian then charges forward and delivers a devastating punch that pushes the enemy ship back, ultimately destroying the machine. Jin concedes defeat, but he has managed to collect valuable new data from the encounter. After the battle, Mikono apologizes for her hasty conclusions about Amada and Zesika. The team reassures Yunoha that they are there for her and that she need not be shy. They learn that Yunoha has been with them all along, using her power to hide herself. Now feeling more comfortable, she touches Amada, causing him to float as usual. Zesika and Mikono realize that Amada's floating ability is not limited to Mikono, but rather he floats for literally everyone. Next, Andy explains why he has been digging holes around the academy. He believes there are unexplored worlds beneath the soil and is determined to discover them. Specifically, he is referring to the female dormitory and is secretly digging a hole to gain access to the girls' changing room. Andy digs vigorously and soon breaks through to an opening. Inside the small room, he finds a book and excitedly picks it up, intending to show his friends. When he arrives, his friends are busy examining the photographs they have taken. Andy tells them about the book he has discovered, claiming it might be the legendary Book of Twin Stars. This mythical book is said to grant anyone who possesses it the ability to control Aquarian at will. His friends question how Andy obtained the book, but he struggles to provide a convincing explanation, unwilling to admit he was aiming for the female dormitory when he found it. Meanwhile, Donar and the others are eager to learn what Director Kreia discovered during her recent journey, but she refuses to share any concrete information. The following day, Andy excitedly tells his classmates that he has read the book and found a crucial rule in one of the chapters. He claims that the rule is essential for wielding Aquarian, and states that they should always wear white or blue socks. However, his friends quickly realize that the book he found is not a legendary tome, but rather the school's handbook. Andy's mood drops immediately when he understands that his discovery is not as significant as he had hoped. Meanwhile, on Altair, Izumo is discussing a pressing matter with Jin. He expresses his deep frustration about the alarming number of Iguras they have collected that have died during transit. Izumo reveals a shocking truth. The Iguras they have been abducting are all women. He explains that an unknown epidemic has broken out on Altair, eliminating all the female population, leaving only men. Without women, they are unable to reproduce, facing a dire crisis. Izumo believes that Mikono may be the woman they desperately need. To confirm this, he decides to send Jin back to Vega, this time piloting the machine himself instead of using remote control, allowing him to assess the situation more thoroughly. Jin accepts the task and begins modifying his suit, using the data he has collected to build a more durable and capable version. Back on Vega, Amada and his friends are discussing the school's dress code and social dynamics. Mix accuses Zesika of showing too much skin, insisting that a woman should not expose herself excessively. Suddenly, the alarm sounds, indicating that an abductor is active in the city. The elements are immediately called into action, and Zen dispatches Amada, Mikono, and Zesika to engage the enemy. They quickly merge their vectors to form the mighty Aquarian. Meanwhile, Kagura watches the intense battle between Jin and Aquarian, feeling a pang of pain as he sees Jin harming Mikono. Mikono and the others struggle against Jin's ultimate suit, which seems prepared to counter every attack they attempt. Jin further complicates the situation by using infill shots that don't cause external damage, but directly harm the operators, forcing Aquarian to split back into its individual vectors. Jin then sets his sights on Zesika, but she instinctively dodges his attack, which could have been devastating. They realize that their exposed bodies can now sense the incoming attacks. Inspired by this discovery, the trio begins tearing off their clothes, even the usually shy Mikono compelled to do the same to boost their power levels. The more embarrassed they feel, the higher their power levels soar, allowing them to merge back into Aquarian. Jin unleashes another attack, but Aquarian easily evades it. Realizing he's too late, Jin watches helplessly as the mighty mecha delivers a powerful blow that destroys his suit. After their victory, Zen informs the group that offense is the best defense, encouraging a more shameless fighting style. Later, Zesika manages to capture a cute picture of Amada, which she cherishes dearly. On Vega, Izumo and his comrades are deeply worried because they haven't heard from Jin. The machine he was operating was completely destroyed, but there is no evidence that he was killed inside it. Jin is a crucial figure for them, as he is the last son of Altair, and they cannot afford to lose him. Some of Jin's close friends are angry that they haven't been given permission to search for him, believing he is in trouble while the higher-ups do nothing. As they discuss this, Mike Cage appears and uses his power to boost their determination to save Jin. The trio is now willing to break the rules to rescue their friend. In the next scene, Andy wakes up to find that all the holes he had dug have been filled in. This frustrates him, and he is convinced that a girl is responsible. Amada argues that it could have been a boy instead. Meanwhile, Mikono is eating in the cafeteria when Zessica teases her about Amada. Mikono insists she has no romantic feelings for him, but Zessica suggests she should let Amada go, and Mikono doesn't respond. It seems Zessica is becoming quite interested in Amada herself. Elsewhere, the director is concerned that the darkness in Shrade's heart is worsening, and Cayenne worries that Shrade is not fit to fight in battles. Later, Andy and Amada start digging holes again. Amada asks Andy why he is always digging. Andy gives the same answer as before. He believes there are hidden worlds underground with their own cultures. However, he is really talking about the women's bathroom. Just then, the holes begin to fill up again, and they are pushed out, coming face to face with the person blocking the holes, none other than Mix. This revelation shocks Andy, as he realizes that he and Mix are rivals with opposing powers. An argument breaks out between them, with Mix questioning why Andy is digging holes, and Andy wondering why Mix is filling them in. While they bicker, Zen watches from a distance and starts to form an idea. He returns to the operations room to discuss the possibility of pairing Mix and Andy together in the same group. Soon after, Andy and Mix are summoned to the docking station. Zen wants them to pilot the vectors and potentially merge to form Aquarian, but the duo flatly refuses the offer. During the training session, all they do is argue about who is right or wrong. The simulation ends up getting interrupted without any positive results. As punishment, Andy and Mix are locked in a room where Mix is forced to dig holes, and Andy is ordered to fill them in. Andy teases Mix, asking why she hates men so much, and if she hates her father in the same way. Mentioning her father changes Mix's mood, and she remains silent until they are released from the room. Later, Mikono explains to Amada the reason behind Mix's hatred of holes. Apparently, Mix's father was a reporter who abandoned her for another woman, leaving a significant emotional wound. This is why she hates holes. They remind her of the emptiness left in her heart that is never fully healed. The following day, abductors appear in Vega as usual. These enemies turn out to be Jin's comrades searching for him. To combat the threat, Zen orders Mikono, Mix, and Andy to work together as a team, hoping they can learn to cooperate. Andy is excited about the possibility of merging with Mix, but she is not interested. Determined to take on the enemies alone, Mix sets off. But Andy stops her, reminding her that she cannot defeat them single-handedly. He and Mikono try to convince Mix to let go of the emotional hole in her heart. Mix listens and attempts to merge with them, but the process fails because she isn't fully committed, leading to a disastrous formation. In the chaos, Andy gets injured, and Amada quickly steps in to take his place. Although Andy is sent back to base, he still maintains a connection with Mix. Amada and Mikono pursue Mix, and manage to convince her to merge with them. She agrees, and this is her first time doing so. As they merge, Mix feels an incredible sensation in her heart. It turns out that Mikono has the power to create connections between the elements. They successfully form a powerful Aquarian, and Mix uses her ability to fill the holes in the enemy's body armor. When they try to shoot at the enemy, their own weapons backfire and destroy the abductors instead. Mix has filled all the holes in the armor, preventing their artillery from firing effectively. This marks a significant moment for Mix as she overcomes her fear of merging with a male pilot. After the battle, Mix and Andy continue to argue, which seems to be their way of connecting with each other. Meanwhile, Mikono and Amada share a romantic moment, but Zen interrupts them, reminding them that romance is not allowed at the academy. The scene shifts to reveal that Jin is alive, observing the academy from afar. Soon after, Jin arrives at the academy and is introduced to the students as a new transfer from another school. He is overwhelmed when he sees all the girls in the class, surprised by the abundance of rare iguras he can choose from. After his introduction, Jin is quickly surrounded by the female students, and being new to this attention, he doesn't know how to respond or interact with them. Cayenne takes Jin on a tour of the school, showing him various locations, including a partially broken section of the Berlin Wall. Next, they visit the operations room, known as Neo Diava's hub, where strategies and tactics for Aquarian are managed. Jin appears lost when Cayenne mentions Aquarian, as he doesn't realize that it refers to the mechanical suit they use in battles. Cayenne is surprised that Jin is unaware of what Aquarian is. During the tour, Amada arrives, and he and Cayenne begin their usual argument. Jin seizes the opportunity to sneak away from them and heads to the hangar where the weapons are stored. He quickly studies the room, gathering information. The following day, Jin contacts Izumo to report on the situation. Izumo tells him to come back alive and to make sure he brings back a suitable Igora. Jin explains that humans use primitive technology compared to theirs, which is why he was was able to easily hack into the Academy's system and access their databank. He needs to find the strongest Igora as quickly as possible and has a device with him that will help him accomplish this task with ease. In the next scene, Jin sees Andy and Mix arguing with each other, which surprises him. He doesn't understand why they are fighting over holes. Shortly after, Jin accidentally walks into the female restroom. The girls quickly surround him, ready to confront him, but Yunoha steps in and reminds them that he is new to the school and might have made a mistake because he doesn't know his way around yet. Thanks to Yunoha's intervention, Jin is saved and retreats to the male dorm. He ignores Andy and Amada, who are asking him if he is interested in digging holes. Next, Jin and Yunoha sit across from each other in class. Mikono and Amada soon join them. Yunoha talks about Jin, expressing her belief that he is in a similar situation to hers when she first arrived at the school. Back then, people tried to talk to her, but she was used to being alone. Eventually, people left her alone, and she vanished into darkness. Yunoha doesn't want Jin to end up like her and hopes they will interact with him so he can feel more comfortable. Meanwhile, Shrade visits Cayenne and reveals that something has felt off for the past few days. He mentions hearing strange noises since the abductor they fought disappeared and wonders what is going on. Later, Jin is in the library when Yunoha runs into him. His device falls out, but he quickly picks it up and tries to hide it. Yunoha notices it before he can conceal it, but doesn't press him for answers. Instead, she talks to him about the dangers of being alone, saying it's not good for him. As she speaks, tears begin to run down her cheeks, and she runs away in embarrassment. Yunoha's tears resonate with Jin, making an impact on him. Meanwhile, Cayenne is following Jin, suspecting that he might be the pilot of the giant abductor they fought. That night, Cayenne sits in his room and gathers data on the girls. He discovers that Yunoha has the power of transparency, remembering a battle where she made a machine disappear. Cayenne transfers all the data to Izumo, and mentions Yunoha's tears, suggesting that they must have affected Jin deeply. Izumo advises Cayenne to grab Yunoha and take her with him if he is worried about her. Feeling determined, Cayenne stands up and tells Andy and Amada that he is ready to join them in digging holes. This news excites the two, and they quickly take Jin to a new hole they are digging. This hole is in a discreet location that Mix might have trouble finding, and it leads to the female dorm, which has been Jin's plan all along. Once they arrive at the dorm, Jin leaves Andy and Amada behind and heads toward Yunoha's room. He throws a stone at her window to get her attention. When Yunoha comes to the window, he expresses his desire to talk more. However, Yunoha feels shy and retreats back into her room. Not willing to give up, Jin climbs up to her window. Just then, Cayenne appears and fires a warning shot at Jin. Amada and Andy are shocked to see Cayenne aiming a gun at him. Jin manages to reach Yunoha's window, and she comes out when she hears the gunshot. Cayenne breaks free from Amada and Andy and fires at both Yunoha and Jin. In a moment of instinct, Jin subconsciously activates his power to create a barrier that blocks the blast. He is unaware that he possesses such abilities. On Altair, Izumo leaves his chambers and heads to the cryo chamber. He stands in front of the pods, staring into Alicia's eyes. While he is there, My Cage arrives. Izumo reprimands My Cage for entering without permission, but My Cage is unconcerned. He knows why Izumo is spending time in front of Alicia. Maikage explains that after Altair lost all their women, they had to investigate Vega to keep their hopes alive. Izumo was one of those who went on the investigation. Alicia was one of the girls chosen to bring hope back to Altair. However, she fell into a deep sleep during the journey, and has remained in that state ever since. Izumo has not allowed anyone to touch her. He also notes that Alicia left a son back in Vega. Maikage wants to eliminate Alicia, seeing her as useless, but Izumo stops him, reminding him that no one is to touch her. Maikage reluctantly agrees to back off. Izumo then tells Maikage that Jin has infiltrated the nest of the mechanical angels, referring to Aquarian. There is hope that Jin will find someone useful for them. Afterward, Maikage returns to his chambers, where Kagura is being held captive. Kagura struggles to break free, but lacks the strength and willpower to do so. Maikage begins to say hurtful things to Kagura about Mikono, urging him to break free if he truly cares. He wants Kagura's love to be reborn. Kagura becomes furious at Maikage's words. In a fit of rage, he transforms into a beast and breaks free from his confinement. He charges at Maikage, but Maikage tells him to embark on a journey of love if he wants to satisfy his longing. In his beast form, Kagura ignores Maikage and heads to the hangar, easily knocking out the guards to gain access. The alarm sounds immediately. Meanwhile, Maikage reveals his true intentions. He is not looking for the true Igura, but aims to awaken the mechanical angel of Genesis that sleeps in Vega. Back on Vega, both Cayenne and Jin are locked up. Jin is imprisoned for sneaking into the female dorm, while Cayenne is locked up for pointing a gun at a classmate. Jin is the first to be released, while Cayenne remains in his cell, reflecting on his choices. As Jin leaves his cell, he runs into Yunoha, who is holding her stuffed animal as usual. The director and the higher-ups discover that Jin is not who he claims to be. However, they decide not to take action because they need his power. As long as he possesses power, he remains a candidate for Neo Diava. On the other hand, Amada and his friends find Jin mysterious, but they don't think that makes him a bad person. Jessica indirectly kisses Amada when she takes his drink and uses the same straw. Back on Altair, Kagura successfully acquires his armor and tries to leave the planet. Izumo orders that the gate be closed to prevent his escape. Andy approaches Amada and teases him about Mikono. Knowing that Amada has feelings for her, he advises Amada to act on his feelings before he loses her. Amada reminds Andy that romance is prohibited. Andy suggests that Amada can reserve Mikono until the war with the abductors is over, but he should express his feelings now before it's too late. Amada reflects on Andy's advice and realizes that he is speaking the truth. He remembers that Kagura is interested in Mikono, which could pose a problem for him. Determined to act quickly, Amada approaches Mikono without delay, thinking that the sooner he talks to her, the better. Back on Altair, Izumo tells Kagura that he cannot allow him to leave because he is acting irrationally. However, Kagura dismisses Izumo's concerns, insisting that he just wants to leave. He is prepared to destroy the city to achieve his goal. In response, Izumo is forced to send the military after him. He notices that Kagura's power has increased significantly and wonders where it came from. Meanwhile, Mikage is secretly providing Kagura with the support and strength he needs from his chambers. Kagura suddenly realizes that the machines have pulled back from the battlefield. As he looks ahead, he sees powerful artillery set up to attack him. Strong projectiles are launched at him, trying to throw him off balance. On another planet, Jessica stands in front of a mirror, wondering why Amada doesn't like her the way he likes Mikono. While she is lost in thought, she gets a quick vision of Mikono and Kagura. Meanwhile, Amada takes Mikono to the riverside to discuss his feelings. He wants to ask her about her plans after the war is over. Back to Kagura's fight, he is bombarded with artillery fire and falls to the ground. The machines surround him, believing he has been defeated. Just then, Kagura regains his strength and blasts all the machines away. He powers up his armor, and his machine gains wings, allowing him to soar through the sky and cut down his enemies. With Mikage's assistance, the gate opens for Kagura, and he escapes from the planet. Jin is sitting alone, trying to eat a hot dog when two girls approach him. They insist on taking cute pictures of him. Although he feels shy, they make sure to get the photos they want. Elsewhere, Amada tells Andy that he hasn't been able to talk to Mikono about his feelings. Andy understands and offers to help. He suggests organizing an exciting event to bring them together since the Academy's anniversary is coming up the next day. Andy gives Amada a letter to invite Mikono. In class, Amada throws the note to Mikono, and she catches it. She discovers that it is an invitation to the boys' dorm. Jessica sees this, and Amada invites her as well. Andy wonders why Amada is inviting Jessica when he really needs time alone with Mikono. That night, Andy starts preparing their room for the event. While he is cleaning, Jin enters, and Andy suggests that he join them as a way to get used to being around girls. Moments later, Jessica and Mikono crawl through a hole to reach the boys' dorm. As they make their way through, they realize that Yunoha is following them. She asks to tag along. Meanwhile, Shrade and Cayenne are talking in the yard. Shrade notices that Cayenne is being cautious around Jin, which is why he ended up in detention. Just then, the girls emerge from the hole and run into Cayenne and Shrade. The girls head toward Andy and Amada's room, escorted by Cayenne and Shrade. The girls explain that they ran into the boys on their way. Andy quickly reassures the guys that they aren't planning anything unusual. They just want to have a fun time together in preparation for tomorrow's anniversary. Jessica has heard that boys keep irregular pictures under their beds, so she goes straight to search under Amada's bed. She finds a picture of the actress Sylphie, who is actually Alicia. Jin is surprised when he sees this, and everyone in the room recognizes Alicia as the actress from the popular movie, Skies of Aquaria. Yunoha knows that Jin is a fan of Alicia and asks him to show the group his device. Jin reluctantly takes out the device and shows them a video of Sylphie singing. The group decides to feature the movie at the anniversary event. The next morning, Andy starts distributing posters to raise awareness about the movie. Meanwhile, Jin retreats to a private spot to contact Altair, but he is unable to get through. While he is trying to make the call, Yunoha sees him. Jin chases after her, thinking she is listening to his conversation. In the process, he accidentally tears her teddy bear. With tears in her eyes, Yunoha leaves the teddy behind for Jin. Meanwhile, Amada and Mikono are busy setting up the projector they need for the event. This setup reminds them of the first time they met in the theater. During their conversation, Amada reveals that Alicia is his mother, which is why he has the picture. He explains that his mother left him when he was very young, and he feels like an unwanted child. Mikono corrects him, assuring him that he is not unwanted. Amada then asks Mikono if she will watch the movie with him, and she agrees. He becomes excited and starts to float. Jessica sees this and feels her anger growing. Back in his room, Jin realizes he needs to apologize to Yunoha. He fixes the teddy bear and prepares to return it to her. Meanwhile, on Altair, Maikage reveals that he plans to interfere with Jin's mission. Later, Amada finds Yunoha and returns the teddy bear to her, apologizing for tearing it. Yunoha reassures Jin that she wasn't spying on him. She understands that everyone has their secrets and is ready to respect that. She thanks Jin for fixing the teddy and reveals that its name is Tama. They agree to meet again that night for the movie. That night, Jin searches for his device but cannot find it. Unbeknownst to him, Maikage has used his powers to move the device. Meanwhile, Yunoha discovers the device where she and Jin are supposed to meet. She picks it up and hears Izumo trying to send a message to Jin. Izumo warns that Kagura will soon arrive, and he needs to take the girl away before Kagura gets there. When Jin appears, Yunoha quickly hides the device and pretends she doesn't have it. Shortly after, the movie begins, and everyone settles in to watch. As they enjoy the film, Amada and Mikono get closer, causing Amada to become excited and start floating. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, signaling the presence of abductors. Amada and Mikono run into Kagura. They become frightened and fall onto a tree branch. Jin, worried about the situation, asks Yunoha to come with him. Kagura is searching through the base for Mikono, trying to smell the presence of all the girls around him to see if any of them are Mikono, but they aren't. Meanwhile, Yunoha tells Jin that she has his device with her. She reveals that she heard the message meant for him and shows him the device, which he grabs. Suddenly, there is an explosion nearby, and Yunoha passes out from fear. The authorities are evacuating the students to prevent casualties, but there are still 20 students missing. Mikono, Amada, and Zessica manage to reach the hangar, ready to move out with their vectors. The trio merges into Aquarian and goes after Kagura. When Kagura spots them, he smiles, having been searching for Mikono. The trio is surprised when Kagura calls Mikono Sylphie. He charges toward Aquarian, and they realize they have no way to stop him. It's clear that he is much more powerful than the last time they fought. He has improved his suit and is using more power. Zen explains that Kagura is using the power of reversal and appears to have elemental powers as well. On the other side, Jin has taken Yunoha to the hangar. She wakes up to see him preparing one of the vectors. Jin reveals that he intends to take Yunoha with him to his planet. However, Yunoha wants him to join them in battling Kagura, but he refuses, stating that he has his own mission to attend to. As soon as he activates the vector, those in the operation room receive an alert that one of the reserved vectors has been activated. The camera then reveals that the traitor is Jin. Cayenne is furious because he was right all along. He offers to go after Jin and stop him. Meanwhile, the battle between Aquarian and Kagura continues. The trio wonders why Kagura is so much stronger than before, and discovers that he is being powered by a strange aura. This aura is being transferred from an ethereal tube directly from Altair, and Maikage is the one helping Kagura through the dimensional gate. They realize that their only solution is to cut off the dimensional gate, which will stop the energy supply to Kagura. Suddenly, Maikage appears in the operations room, shocking everyone because of his teleportation abilities. It seems that Zen and Donar recognize Maikage. Back in the hangar, Yunoha tries to convince Jin not to betray their trust, but he brushes her off, stating that his mission is more important. He powers up the vector and prepares to leave the planet, arriving too late for Cayenne. In the operations room, Maikage attacks. Donar jumps in front of Suomi to protect her, but passes out in the process. This leaves Suomi, Kreia, and Zen to confront Maikage. Zen and Maikage begin to talk as if they have a history together. As Jin is about to pass through the dimensional gate, Yunoha tears up and pleads with him to reconsider his choices, reminding him that their friends need their help. At the same time, Kagura has defeated Aquarian and opens the hatch to take Mikono. He is still celebrating his victory when Amada regains consciousness. Amada activates the wings on his legs and quickly snatches Mikono away from Kagura. However, he doesn't get far before Kagura shoots him down, aiming to kill Amada since he sees no use for him. Meanwhile, in the operations room, Maikage confronts Zen and demands to know where the solar wings are. Just then, Donar regains consciousness and shoots Maikage with a blast gun, but Maikage easily blocks the attack. He decides to retreat for now. Kagura is about to eliminate Amada when Andy arrives and traps him in one of his holes. Amada and Mikono manage to reunite with Andy and Mix. Furious, Kagura breaks free from the hole, determined to eliminate them. However, the arrival of other vectors prevents him from doing so. The director immediately orders the elements to merge again. To everyone's surprise, Jin and Yunoha return, with Yunoha having convinced Jin to help out. Jin expresses his desire to merge with them as well. Maikage appears to Jin and decides he needs to be punished for his betrayal. He touches Jin's head, causing him to get injured. Despite this, Jin emerges from the attack unharmed and asks the elements to merge with him. They successfully merge, creating two Aquarian to battle Kagura. They manage to knock Kagura into a rock, but he retaliates with a powerful counterattack. The team realizes they need to cut off the dimensional gate to defeat Kagura, and Jin offers a solution. Jin activates his power, and all the other elements support him in creating a massive wave that destroys the gate. After successfully closing the gate, Kagura charges toward them, but Jin uses all his strength to protect his friends. Cayenne finishes off Kagura, leaving leading to their victory. However, the injury on Jin's forehead worsens, and he becomes unresponsive. His device falls from his pocket and plays a recording of how much he likes Yunoha. After the battle, it is revealed that Jin didn't survive his injuries and has died. He, along with several others, are casualties of the fight. A funeral procession is held for the deceased, and they are laid to rest in the church, surrounded by flowers. Back on Altair, Izumo learns about Jin's death and blames My Cage for it. My Cage is also trying to stir up a rebellion in the city. He explains to Izumo that his actions were necessary to make life easier for them on Altair, which is already dying. They need to find a solution quickly, including bringing females to the planet to ensure the next generation. Izumo somewhat understands Maikage's perspective and asks for Jin's forgiveness, but he hopes that Jin will not forgive him or Altair for what they did. On Vega, the deceased are taken from the church to be transported to the cemetery. Yunoha has locked herself in a room since Jin's death and refuses to show herself. Mikono is worried about her but doesn't want to disturb her, wanting to give her space to grieve alone. Mikono is alone when Zen approaches him. Zen urges Mikono to reach out to Yunoha and try to get her out of isolation. Initially, Mikono refuses, believing Yunoha should grieve in her own way. However, he changes his mind when Zen warns him that Yunoha will lose herself if she continues this way, and may end up destroying herself without realizing it. Concerned about this, Mikono agrees to find Yunoha and bring her out of the house. Mikono makes his way to Yunoha's room, bringing food in an attempt to lift her spirits. Yunoha blames herself for not agreeing to follow Jin, believing that he would still be alive if she had. Mikono encourages Yunoha to come with him to pay her last respects to Jin. Although Yunoha is hesitant to leave her room, she eventually agrees to go with Mikono. Elsewhere, Amada is busy packing Jin's belongings when his device falls and displays an image of Sylphie. Amada wonders if his mother is currently on Altair. Shortly after, the students head to the cemetery. While they are on the boat, some students express their desire to quit the school. The recent events have negatively affected most of them, leaving them scared for their safety. Mix tries to convince them to stay, but Andy stops her, not wanting to change the students' minds against their will. Minutes later, they arrive at the cemetery, and the deceased are laid to rest. Just then, Zen tells Andy to dig multiple holes but doesn't explain their purpose. Kriya informs the students that they have learned about Altair's mission, which is to kidnap female elements for reproduction. Because of this, more battles are expected, and more lives will be lost. To prepare for the upcoming battles, Zen tells the students they need to die first. He instructs them to get into the holes and bury themselves, claiming it is part of their training. Mikono and some students become angry, feeling that Zen is being insensitive, especially after just losing their comrades. Zen explains that this process is necessary to help them cut off their attachment to the living. Shrade is the first to comply, getting into one of the holes. Yunoha joins him, and before Mikono realizes it, all the students have jumped into the holes. The only ones left are Mikono and Amada. Mikono refuses to get into the hole, but Zen tells her she is free to do as she wishes. Then, using his super speed, he grabs Amada and throws him into the hole, sealing it immediately. Mikono is left alone on the surface with the school authorities. Moments later, some of the students ran out of the holes out of fear. Meanwhile, My Cage has realized what Zen is trying to do. He is also burying Kagura alongside the students to make him powerful. Amada and his friends start to feel comfortable inside the holes. They are able to feel and connect through the silence. Mikono is worried about them and wants to dig them out, but soon finds out that her power connects them. Her friends are able to bloom like mushrooms because of her. Her friends are able to draw from her power and get the fear of death from their minds. Amada and the rest are reborn, and they burst out of their graves. Mikono faces Amada and greets him with a happy birthday. They were still celebrating their win when Kagura burst out of one of the holes. They had no idea that he was also being buried in the same cemetery as them. Zen notices the killer intent on Kagura's face and quickly gets Kreia out of the area. He leaves the students to face Kagura, wanting to see how far they have come with their new abilities. Dorn tells the girls to leave since Kagura is targeting them. He draws his sword and charges at Kagura, but Kagura uses an energy blast to destroy the sword and throw Donar off balance. Andy joins the fight, creating holes under Kagura, causing him to fall in. Mix fills the holes, and they believe this will be enough to stop Kagura. However, he shocks them by bursting out of the holes. He grabs Mix but throws her aside, stating she is not the one he wants. He is after Mikono, who wonders why he is chasing her. Amada urges his friends to get Mikono out of there before Kagura can grab her. Two students quickly grab Mikono and take her away to keep her safe. Cayenne charges at Kagura but is easily knocked down. Amada tries to fight as well, but Kagura proves too strong for them. He cuts through them and transforms into a beast to chase after the car carrying Mikono. Shrade steps in and uses his sound abilities to inflict pain on Kagura, pinning him down temporarily. However, Kagura manages to break free and continues his pursuit. Kagura soon catches up to the car and uses uses his reversal skill to change its gear from drive to reverse. The car crashes into a tree, and Kagura seizes the opportunity to grab Mikono before anyone can stop him. He takes her to a tower where he hides her. A search for Mikono begins, and resources are mobilized for the effort. Donar, Andy, Yunoha, and Mix are in a helicopter searching for her, while the rest of the team continues the search on the ground. Mikono wakes up at the top of a tower, where Kagura is standing guard to ensure the helicopter light doesn't spot them. He covers her mouth with his hand when the helicopter gets close, trying to prevent her from making noise or calling attention to herself. Kagura attempts to contact Maikage to inform him that he has secured the package, but he receives no response. He believes Maikage is just not hearing him, unaware that Maikage is choosing to ignore him. Meanwhile, Zesika tells Amada not to worry too much about Mikono, assuring him that Kagura won't hurt her. When Amada asks why she is so certain, Zesika reveals that Kagura is Mikono's man of destiny. Back in the tower, Kagura assures Mikono that he won't harm her. He even licks her wound and calls her Sylphie. Mikono realizes that this isn't the first time Kagura has referred to her as Sylphie. He then begins to tell her a story, while Zesika narrates the same story to Amada. The story explains that the Tree of Life was withering and needed saving. To help it, two lovers agreed to separate, promising to find each other again no matter how far apart they were. These two lovers are Apollon and Sylphie. It is revealed that Kagura sees himself as Sylphie and recognizes Sylphie's image in Mikono. This is the reason he has been chasing her. Zesika hopes that Kagura is truly Mikono's destiny, as this would give her a chance with Amada. Suddenly, they hear a loud bang coming from the tower, leading them to deduce that Kagura is hiding there. They rush over to the tower, and Amada tries to reach Mikono, but is stopped by Kagura. Kagura knocks Amada to the ground and comes after him. Amada tells Zesika to contact Cayenne and inform him of their location. He wants to distract Kagura so that Mikono can be rescued more easily. Amada runs away, and Kagura, filled with rage, chases after him. Meanwhile, the helicopter soon locates Mikono, who is hanging on. Kagura catches up to Amada and starts to beat him up. Amada tries to fight back, but he is no match for Kagura's strength. Kagura punches him against the wall, causing Amada to pass out. While unconscious, Amada reflects on the darkness and his connection to it. Since he has already been reborn in darkness, he manages to find a way out. Amada discovers a new source of power and begins to levitate. Kagura attempts to blast him away, but an energy shield forms around Amada, stopping the attack. As Kagura prepares another attack, Cayenne suddenly appears and shoots him from behind. Kagura manages to throw Cayenne off balance, causing the gun to fall near Amada. Cayenne urges Amada to finish Kagura off. Amada picks up the gun and is about to shoot Kagura when Mikono arrives and stops him, pleading with Amada not to end Kagura's life. Suddenly, flower petals appear and envelop Kagura, who then floats away with the petals. After Kagura escapes, Kreia calls Mikono to her office. As a punishment, she bans Mikono from leaving her dorm. This is not her official punishment, but Mikono must serve this time until Kreia decides on a more formal consequence for allowing Kagura to slip away. After leaving the office, Mikono runs into Yunoha, who assures her that she is there to support her no matter what situation she finds herself in. Mikono expresses her confusion about her actions and admits there are things she still doesn't understand regarding the situation. Meanwhile, Andy and Amada are secretly listening to their conversation through a hidden hole, hearing everything they say. The two guys return to their dorm to discuss what they overheard. Amada wonders if their fate was truly decided 12,000 years ago, and if they are really connected. Andy suggests that there is a possibility of that connection. He mentions that he is connected to Mix through holes, and that Amada needs to find his own connection to Mikono. Andy proposes that the duo might be linked through Shushu, Mikono's pet. To get closer to Mikono, Amada needs to win over Shushu. Amada heads to the grocery store to buy things he thinks Shushu will like. Zesika sees him leaving the store and worries about what she told him earlier. She feels like taking back her words, but Mix reassures her that there is no need to do so. Meanwhile, back on Altair, the city known as the Iron Sea is starting to experience problems. The power output has decreased, causing Izumo to worry. He reveals that the city was created by his mother, Oriza, and he needs to find a solution to the issue. In the next scene, Zen reveals his plan to take the elements through real combat training. They will train as if they are on the battlefield to prepare for the upcoming battles. He has already set up combinations for the training, with Cayenne, Bianca, and Malloy fighting against Amada, Zesika, and Mikono. Soon after, the elements and their vectors arrive at the battleground. They merge to become Aquarian. Zen tells them they are free to use their elemental powers against each other, and should treat each other like enemies. It will be Team Amada versus Team Cayenne. Cayenne wants to test if Amada can protect his sister. so he is the first to attack. Team Cayenne takes the offensive while Team Amada remains on the defensive. Cayenne and his team aggressively attack Team Amada. Amada struggles to fight back, as their elemental powers have been boosted from their training, but only Team Cayenne is effectively using that boost. Team Amada feels like sitting ducks, unable to respond to Cayenne's relentless attacks. Cayenne's Aquarian is designed for long-distance battles, giving them an advantage. Additionally, Cayenne has gained the ability to see 3 seconds into the future, allowing him to predict the opponent's movements and tactics clearly. During the battle, Amada needs some motivation to help them out of their predicament. Zessica decides to confess her feelings to Amada. She gets close to him but struggles to find the words. Just then, an attack is imminent, and their suit manages to dodge it. In the midst of this, Zessica tells Amada that she loves him. However, Amada cannot hear her because of the explosion. He asks Zessica what she was trying to say, but she is too shy to repeat it. Zessica realizes that this might be her only chance, so she holds Amada's head and boldly tells him that she loves him. Her words echo throughout the area, leaving everyone in the operations room stunned. At that moment, Amada's Aquarian begins to move on its own, having reached a new level of evolution due to love. The Aquarian Evo unleashes a powerful Mugen Punch that astonishes everyone. The Mugen Punch creates a series of images. They see another Aquarian that doesn't belong to them, along with 2 men battling each other, one of whom resembles Zen. Mikono recognizes the other person but cannot recall where she knows him from. It turns out that the images are from 12,000 years ago, featuring Sylvia, not Sylphie. The punch causes a massive explosion that disrupts the video connection, and there is a risk that the entire island could be destroyed. When the dust settles, they discover that both Aquarians are okay, but the entire island has been devastated. The team wonders what kind of power they have just unlocked with this forbidden love. Zessica realizes that her confession of love triggered this sudden surge of power that nearly killed everyone. After returning to the academy, Amada tries to talk to Zessica about her confession, but she finds it difficult to discuss. Zessica tells him that he doesn't need to stress over it. She understands him and isn't putting any pressure on him. As she walks away, Amada tries to pull her back. Just then, Mikono sees them, and Amada quickly releases Zessica's hand. Feeling jealous, Mikono runs away. Amada attempts to follow her, but Shushu jumps onto his face and scratches him to stop him. Later that day, Mikono finds Zessica, who is lost in thought about her choices. Zessica decides not to talk about the events of the day. Meanwhile, Mix is frustrated that some of them are still thinking about romance when they have battles to prepare for. Amada is receiving lectures about romance from his friends in the dorm. Suddenly, Amada and the others are summoned by Zen and Kreia for an emergency meeting. Zen informs the team that he is sending them on a top-secret mission. The details, location, and contents of the mission are all classified, so they won't be able to ask any questions. The vectors have been programmed to take them to the mission site and are stocked with supplies to make their mission easier. The next day, the students begin their journey to an unknown location, with Sumoi being the only adult accompanying them. She is also unaware of the mission's details, which only Kreia and Zen know. Amada suspects that they are being sent to uncover the mythic Aquarian, while Mikono wonders if it will be dangerous to dig it out. Meanwhile, Cage is monitoring the situation and believes that Zen is making the first move. Soon, they arrive at an island that appears to be their destination. Upon arrival, the commander tells them they are free to do as they please while they wait for further instructions. Kreia informs the students that there are swimsuits inside the vectors for them to use. A little later, the boys sit down to fish, while Mix and the other girls play nearby. Mix is playing with bananas when she accidentally hits Andy in the head. She takes him to the ship to treat his injury. After she finishes, Andy stops her from leaving, wanting to confess his love for Mix, but struggling to find the courage to do so. Meanwhile, Zessica has secluded herself from the rest of the team, enjoying some peace and quiet when Mikono finds her. The two decide to stay together. Back on the ship, Andy keeps stuttering and eventually blurts out that he wants to fill Mix's hole. He meant to say he wanted to fill the hole in her heart, but ended up saying the wrong thing. Mix gets angry and punches him in the head before storming off the ship, leaving him behind. Mikono and Zessica are discussing what the boys might want when the weather suddenly changes. Meanwhile, Andy is inside the ship, feeling sad about his rejection. He feels like he wants to bury himself in a hole and starts digging where he is sitting. Outside the ship, a dimensional gate opens and an abductor emerges. Cayenne, Malloy, and Amada quickly put on their Aquarian to fight the abductor. Mix and the other girls take refuge in the hole that Andy is digging. He continues to dig without a specific goal, completely unaware that he has created a very deep hole. Soon he breaks through to a cave containing an unknown object. Suddenly, Andy and everyone in the hole are ejected back to the surface. They find themselves inside the vector, now fully assembled with all the students present, ready to work together against the abductor. The weather grows colder by the minute as they charge toward the abductor with their combined power and deliver a powerful Mugen Punch, destroying the abductor and securing victory. Back on Altair, Cage realizes that some of the components he needs are on the island, but the main component of the solar wing has not yet been found. Upon returning to the academy, Zessica appears in a new outfit that doesn't expose her belly. Her friends are surprised by her change in style. Zessica approaches Mikono and tells her that she doesn't mind having a one-sided love for Amada. She knows that Amada doesn't feel the same way about her, but she is not ready to stop loving him. Next, Kreia learns that Zen has left the academy. He left a note saying he was going in search of the mythic Aquarian. Kreia wonders if Zen found some clue that led him to make this decision. Meanwhile, Andy is still feeling depressed about his situation with Mix. He is digging holes around the academy due to his unstable emotions. His friends don't know what's wrong with him, but Mix does. She feels guilty and can't tell anyone about it yet. Later, Zessica receives an invitation from one of the guys asking her out on a date. She considers the offer because she wants to move on from Amada's rejection and do things to distract herself. In the yard, Mikono receives a letter from her father. When she sees Amada running toward her, she quickly hides the letter but soon realizes there's no need to hide it. There's nothing she can't discuss with Amada. Mikono tells Amada that the letter is from her father, but she hasn't read it yet. She explains that she and her father were never close because she didn't have elemental powers, and he was only close to Cayenne. So, it's surprising for her to receive a letter from him. Amada shares that he doesn't know much about his father, but has some memories of his mother. Later that night, Mikono reads the letter, but then decides to take it to her brother. She tells him that the letter is meant for him and apologizes for opening it, but she doesn't mention that she has already read its contents. As she leaves her brother, Mikono thinks about what the letter said. It turns out that their father wrote to Cayenne to ask if Mikono is a burden to him at the academy. He is ready to take Mikono away if Cayenne feels that she is a burden. Mikono is lost in thought when Mix finds her. Mix reveals that she is the reason Andy is feeling depressed. She explains what happened during their trip and blames herself for always talking about people's feelings without considering the consequences. The two girls end their conversation by discussing their fathers, agreeing that only men truly understand themselves better. Meanwhile, Sumoi sees Zessica coming out of one of the vector machines, surprised to learn that she has just finished training. Afterward, Zessica goes to the bathroom, sits in the tub, and reflects on her decisions. On Altair, the power and production levels have seriously decreased. They will need to stop their trips to Vega if they want to continue providing the citizens with their basic needs. Izumo realizes that the planet is nearing a crisis and that they are in desperate times. Additionally, Kagura is still missing, and Izumo suspects that Maikage is behind everything that is happening. He believes Maikage doesn't care about the planet. To find a solution, Izumo decides to go to Vega himself to try to acquire the rare Igura. He instructs his men to prepare his royal armor, the Afura Gnis. Before leaving, Izumo visits the pod station to check on Alicia, hoping to find her son while he is in Vega. Back in Vega, Cayenne calls Mikono to let her know that he is aware she has read the letter from their father. He reassures her that he doesn't see her as a burden and is glad that Amada was the first to recognize how much she has changed. Cayenne is eager to share this news with their father. Moments later, Izumo and 3 other abductors arrive on Vega. Neo Diava notices that this abductor looks very different from the ones they have seen before. Its armor is majestic and bold. Andy tries to get into the Vector, but he is not allowed to operate it in his depressed state and is automatically sidelined. The rest of the elements are on standby, ready to engage Izumo and his men. Donar sends Amada, Zessica, Mix, Cayenne, and Malloy to confront the enemy. As the battle begins, Izumo's Afura Gnis proves to be a formidable opponent. Its advanced weaponry and defensive capabilities make it challenging for the elements to land any significant blows. Amada and his team struggle to find a way to break through Izumo's defenses. Meanwhile, Zessica continues to fight with a renewed determination, driven by her desire to move on from her unrequited love. As Zessica, Amada, and Malloy merge, Amada starts to sense what Zessica is feeling. Zessica begins to act irrationally and recklessly, charging at Izumo without a proper plan. Izumo easily deflects her attacks and counters with more dangerous ones. As the battle heats up, Malloy gets knocked out due to Zessica's recklessness, and Cayenne takes Malloy's place after he passes out. Amada continues to attack Izumo, but Izumo dodges his strikes and manages to hack into Neo Diava's communications. He announces that he is Altair's supreme leader and explains the purpose of his visit. He reveals that he has no ill intentions toward their planet, but they need women to ensure the continuation of life on Altair. Upon hearing this, Zessica immediately flies toward the gate, ready to offer herself up. Her friends try to stop her, leading to another battle. During the fight, Amada transforms his vector, and Izumo realizes that he is Alicia's son. Amada also sees an image of his mother appear. Izumo concludes that Maikage is the one manipulating the situation. While Mix is trying to reach Zessica, one of the abductors hits her hard, causing her to pass out. Instead of abducting Zessica, Izumo and the other abductors successfully capture Mix. Andy screams out in pain when he sees this happen. The battle rages on, with Amada and Cayenne desperately trying to stop the abductors from taking Mix. Izumo is impressed by Zen's power and decides to retreat, taking Mix with him. As the abductors disappear through the gate, Zessica collapses, overcome by the weight of her emotions. Amada and the others rush to her aid, realizing the toll her actions have taken. They now face the daunting task of rescuing Mix from Altair. Upon returning to the academy, Andy grabs Amada and punches him in the face, demanding to know why he didn't save Mix. Cayenne intervenes, stopping Andy from going any further. He reminds Andy that Mix was trying to save Zessica when she got kidnapped. Feeling guilt-ridden, Zessica runs away. In the operations room, Kreia and Donar are left wondering where Zen is when they need him the most. The dimensional gate is completely shut, making it impossible to access Altair. Kreia reassures them that Zen can see everything happening and might be looking for a solution. A week has passed since Mix was abducted, and Andy's condition is worsening. He refuses to leave the hole he dug. Amada and Yunoha try to bring him food, but he rejects it. Yunoha worries about what they can do to help Andy, not wanting him to experience the pain of losing a loved one like she did. Meanwhile, Zessica has also locked herself in her room, moping since that day. While she is alone, the mirror in front of her suddenly falls and shatters. My cage emerges from the broken pieces and tells Zessica not to be afraid. He understands the pain of being rejected by someone you love and offers to help her. He promises to open the dimensional gate, but in return, Zessica must do something for him. He approaches her and leaves a purple mark on her forehead before disappearing. The next day, Mikono tells Amada that she is leaving to find Zen on her own. The commander once told her that her power connects people, and she wants to use that power. Amada tries to convince her not to go, but Mikono is determined and won't be stopped. Mikono boards a boat and leaves immediately, determined to save Mix. She also blames herself for not revealing her true feelings, which has contributed to the conflict between Amada and Zessica. She admits to Yunoha that she has feelings for Amada. Suddenly, the dimensional gate opens again. Andy sees this and rushes to the operations room, demanding that the director send them to Altair immediately. However, the director is hesitant, warning that it might be a trap since no abductors are passing through the gate. While they are arguing, Kreia receives a message from the Supreme Commander, Zen. He assures them that the gate is not a trap and instructs them to send in the elements. With Zen's assurance, Kreia quickly gives the order. The elements board their vectors and prepare to leave. Just then, Schrade knocks out Cayenne and takes over his vector, heading to Altair instead of him. The elements move out and enter the dimensional gate to access Altair. Upon arriving on Altair, an alarm sounds, indicating that the gate has been opened. Izumo realizes that only My Cage could have done this and feels disappointed because My Cage knows about the city's power situation. Their power level has dropped to 40% due to the gate he opened. The military does not detect anything coming through the gate and assumes it is a malfunction. Unbeknownst to them, Amada and his team are entering the city. Yunoha is using her powers to make them invincible. They find an opening in the city and dock their vectors there. Yunoha enhances the vector's defenses, informing them that the effect will only last for half a day. They need to rescue Mix before that time runs out. Although Yunoha is already exhausted, she refuses to stay in the vector and insists on following them to explore the world where Jin came from. As the team navigates the unfamiliar streets of Altair, they encounter various obstacles and challenges. The city's advanced technology and security measures make it difficult to move around undetected. Amada and the others must rely on their skills and teamwork to overcome these hurdles and locate Mix's whereabouts. As they move through the planet, they notice that there are only men around. It dawns on them why Altair has been kidnapping girls. Yunoha and Zessica also notice that their breathing has changed since arriving on the planet, but they don't understand why. Looking up, they spot the enemy's headquarters and assume that Mix is being held there. Their target is now the tower. They infiltrate the building, but the security system detects them, and the alarm goes off. Amada and the team encounter 3 individuals wearing helmets. They manage to capture one of them to guide them around the building. However, they soon find themselves pinned down by gunmen. Schrade tells Amada and Andy to escape while the rest of the team holds off the enemies. The masked person with Andy and Amada suffers a minor gunshot wound while they are fleeing. Andy tears off his shirt to clean the wound and stop the bleeding before they continue. They reach the elevator that will take them to the top of the tower, but the masked guy refuses to enter the codes. Andy, desperate to save Mix, threatens him. The boy remains uncooperative and even destroys the elevator door. The guards pin them down again, but Andy creates an opening for Amada to escape through, urging him to save Mix. Amada uses his powers to fly through the building and soon reaches the top. Izumo sees him flying and recognizes him as the winged boy. Amada arrives at the pod station and is shocked to see his mother in one of the pods. Meanwhile, Andy is captured by the guards. As he takes off the helmet, his hair falls down like a woman's. The hole that Andy created earlier closes up. Amada is emotionally hurt and wonders what his mother is doing inside the pod. He wants to know why she left him behind. Flying closer to the pod for a better look, he is soon surrounded by guards who find him in the room. Just as they are about to fire on him, Izumo enters and tells the guards to leave, instructing them not to return until further notice. Although the guards are hesitant to leave their leader alone with Amada, they have no choice but to follow orders. Izumo then tells Amada Amada that he is ready to explain everything he needs to know, including the curse of Eve that was placed on Altair. Meanwhile, Yunoha, Zessica, and Shrade have returned to where the vectors are parked. While the girls discuss the differences between their planet and Altair, Shrade wanders off. They wonder why there are metal plates covering the city, allowing only a small portion of the sky to be seen, and they continue to struggle with their breathing. Shrade, on the other hand, is enjoying a stroll through the area, commenting that the planet is just like him. Andy is locked in a cell, but feels confident that he can break out. Back in Vega, Mikono is still on her quest to find Zen. She travels from town to town in search of the Supreme Commander, and eventually encounters him in a harbor town. Zen laughs at Mikono, and reveals that he has been following her since the beginning. He tells her how he has tracked her through the market, the streetcar, and all the places she has visited in town. Zen explains that his body will not change, and his soul will remain constant for eternity. His words resonate deeply with Mikono, and she wants to respond, but Zen stops her. Zen tells Mikono that he is ready to share the whole story about how everything began 24,000 years ago. Meanwhile, on Altair, Izumo is explaining the meaning of the curse to Amada. He reveals that the women on Altair died out 14 years ago, and Jin was the last person born before all the women perished. This is why they have been coming to Vega to hunt for women. Amada becomes angry, feeling that Altair is selfish, and tries to attack Izumo, but Izumo easily dodges the attack. He tells Amada to calm down, assuring him that he is willing to share everything he needs to know. In Andy's cell, he is already making his move. He creates a hole in his handcuff and breaks it off. Then, he makes a hole in the ground and falls to the next level. There, he encounters a guard, and they end up wrestling. Andy wins the fight by pushing the guard into a wall, knocking him out. However, before he knows it, multiple guards are on him, and he makes a run for it, searching for Mix. Back with Zen, he continues his story with Mikono, but everything he says is in riddles, leaving Mikono confused. She interrupts him, stating that they are going to find the mythic Aquarian at the end of their journey. While Andy fights through the guards, he overhears their radio, learning that Amada is in Alicia's room with Izumo. Izumo informs Amada that all the women brought from Vega were also affected by the curse. This is why they have been searching for a rare woman who can come to Altair without being affected by the curse. They found Alicia, who seemed strong, but unfortunately, she wasn't the true Eve. Amada demands to know what happened to the women who were brought to Altair from Vega. Suddenly, the security system picks up a signal, but nothing appears on their screens. Out of nowhere, Aquarian reveals itself, having been in hiding due to Yunoha's power. The team wants to leave the planet quickly because Zessica and Yunoha are getting worse. They manage to reach Andy, and he reunites with the team, informing them of Amada's location so they can go get him. As the team rushes to Amada's aid, they encounter more resistance from Altair's guards. Shrade, who had wandered off earlier, reappears and joins the fight, using his skills to help the others. Meanwhile, Izumo continues to share the tragic history of Altair with Amata, revealing the devastating consequences of the curse that has plagued their planet. Suddenly, the machine's thrusters start filling up, and the holes above them also close up. Amata realizes that only one person has that kind of power, Mix. He then shares with the team what Izumo revealed to him. Apparently, all the girls brought to Altair from Vega have changed into men both mentally and physically, which is the karma of Altair. Andy figures out that the person who was wearing a helmet earlier is Mix, who has transformed into a man, and that Altair's military has tampered with her memories. Andy's powers begin to spiral out of control due to his emotional state, and he creates a black hole. However, Shrade manages to contain it and uses it as an arrowhead. He shoots the black hole through the wall, creating an opening to the dimensional gate for their escape. Although Shrade feels exhausted from this effort, they successfully escape the planet before being captured. As they leave, Mix looks at them and says, "Her name is not Mix but Mixie." Meanwhile, My Cage is monitoring the entire situation, calmly sitting in his chambers and waiting for the right moment to act. Back on Vega, the team is relieved to have returned safely, but they are deeply troubled by the revelations about Altair and the fate of the kidnapped girls. Amada is left with more questions than answers, particularly about his connection to Alicia and Izumo's cryptic words. The team must now grapple with the implications of Altair's curse and the transformation of the girls, including their friend Mix, who now goes by the name Mixie. Unfortunately, his powers remain unstable, causing him to create holes even when he doesn't intend to. Shrade has received medical care and is now resting. He plans to create the perfect tune before he dies and wants Cayenne to be with him when he plays it. Meanwhile, Zessica is in her room, trying to sleep when Maikage's voice echoes through the space. He reminds her that she still has a promise to fulfill. Zessica doesn't recall what she promised, but Maikage assures her that she will remember when the time comes. Later, Amada finds Andy sitting in the yard. Andy explains that the only place he can sit comfortably is above the holes that Mix filled, because he cannot create new holes there. This means he doesn't have to worry about his powers going out of control while sitting on the filled holes. That night, Amada experiences a nightmare where he fuses with Kagura while trying to hurt Mikono. He wakes up scared from the dream. Meanwhile, Mikono and Zen are still on their journey to find the mythic Aquarian. Zen decides to tell Mikono a story she has never heard before. Zen reveals that shortly after heaven and earth separated, a battle broke out between angels and humans. An angel named Apollonius, known as the Massacring Angel, fell in love with a human girl named Selene during the fight. Because of his love for Selene, Apollonius betrayed his kind and fought alongside the humans, abandoning his wings to operate a mechanical angel. Zen explains that this story goes back 24,000 years and warns Mikono that the same cycle is about to repeat itself. Meanwhile, Amada heads to the docking station and grabs one of the vectors. Kriya orders him to stop, but he refuses, believing that Mikono needs his help. He flies off in search of her, determined not to lose someone he loves again. Shortly after, the director sends Cayenne and Jessica after him. Since Amada's vector has its location turned off, they cannot track it. Cayenne is forced to use his prediction power to figure out where Amada is headed so they can catch up. The next day, Amada arrives in the town where he first met Mikono. He finds the entire town in ruins and wonders what happened during his absence. Meanwhile, Zen and Mikono reach a cave. Shortly after, Jessica and Cayenne arrive at the town, spotting Amada's vector, but finding no sign of him. They are left to search for him. Amada makes his way to the theater where he used to work and live. He enters the room he once stayed in and discovers many pictures on the wall, all of them featuring Alicia. Amada realizes he did not put them there and wonders who might have done it. Meanwhile, Kagura is also in the town. As he walks around, he steps on a picture. Picking it up, he sees it's a photo of Alicia holding Amada in her arms. This picture triggers Kagura's long-lost memories. At the same time, Jessica is searching for Amada in the town. The two soon encounter each other inside the theater. Jessica explains that the director sent her and Cayenne to bring him back. She tells Amada that everyone in the town has been evacuated, and he realizes this is why the town is empty. Jessica asks if he and Mikono met in the theater, and he confirms they did. Just as she is about to ask another question, an abductor arrives, seemingly under Maikage's command. The abductor chases them through the town. Amada nearly gets caught under some rubble, but Jessica saves him, only to fall under the rubble herself. She urges Amada to leave her and escape, but he refuses. Jessica pulls him close, confesses her love for him, and kisses him, which activates Amada's floating ability. He floats away as Jessica cries. The abductor attacks her, and a large piece of rubble falls on her. The abductor goes after Amada, but Cayenne arrives just in time to intercept the attack. This gives Amada a chance to continue running to safety. Shrade and Bianca soon join Cayenne to help. Cayenne is surprised to see Shrade, who is supposed to be resting. Shrade tells Cayenne that he is ready to play his final tune and that he shouldn't worry about him. The vectors merge together to form Aquarian and engage in battle against the abductor. Amada suddenly runs into Kagura, who throws the picture he found at him. Meanwhile, Mikono and Zen are observing the scene from what seems to be an opening in space. Zen announces that the solar wing is about to be awakened. Kagura confronts Amada and reveals that Amada is his other half. The battle between Aquarian and the abductor continues. Kreia and Donar are concerned about Shrade, who has not put on an elemental suit. This decision is meant to help his powers resonate better with the machine, but it is taking a heavy toll on him. Despite the strain, Shrade doesn't care about his suffering. He just wants to feel the melody of the world. Kagura tells Amada that they were originally the same person, but they split into two when their mother left for Altair. He explains that he is the dark version of Amada, ready to follow their mother, while Amada is the fearful one, seen as wimpy. Kagura shares that he followed their mother into the gate, but lost her during the process. He ended up on Altair, where the first person he encountered was Maikage. Maikage took him in, erased his memories, and gave him the new name of Kagura. He no longer cares about their mother or the father they know nothing about. What matters most to Kagura now is Mikono, whom he calls Sylphie. Amada declares that he will not let Kagura harm Mikono and charges towards him, but Kagura effortlessly knocks him against the wall. Watching from the cave, Mikono screams that she doesn't want them to fight. At that moment, the solar wings awaken in the cave. The ground above opens, throwing Mikono out just before the whole cave collapses. As the ground bursts open, a rusty old machine emerges, resonating with Aquarian. Mikono lands on the roof, and both Amada and Kagura see her and call out to her. Kagura then reveals his intention to kill Mikono, which reignites the fight between him and Amada. Meanwhile, those in the operations room watch everything unfold and realize without a doubt that the old rusty machine is the mythic Aquarian, long thought to be lost. Suddenly, Zen reappears in the operations room, shocking everyone. Kagura continues to beat up Amada, and when Mikono shouts at him to stop, it only brings Kagura more joy to keep hurting Amada. At that moment, Jessica opens her eyes to find herself in a strange dimension. She thinks she might be dead, but Maikage appears and tells her he isn't ready to let her die until she fulfills her promises. He snaps Jessica back to life, and she opens her eyes to see that she is still alive. Looking into the distance, she sees Amata and Kagura fighting over Mikono. Kagura claims that fate has destined him and Mikono to be together. Amata counters that Kagura only wants Mikono because of fate, while he wants her because he genuinely cares for her. He doesn't mind that Mikono is the reincarnation of Sylphie from 12,000 years ago. To him, she is a completely different person. This is why he is willing to fight for Mikono with all his strength. Kagura pushes Amata toward an opening below, but Amata's wings activate, allowing him to fly out. Meanwhile, the battle between Aquarian Spada and the abductor continues. Shrade is feeling very weak from the fight and starts coughing up red liquid. Kreia, worried about him, orders an element change. Yunoa quickly replaces Shrade before anything worse can happen. Amata flies toward Mikono, intending to take her away from the chaos, but Kagura holds him back with his power. Back in the operations room, Kreia confronts Zen, asking if he plans to stop what is happening. Zen responds to her with one of his usual riddles. As the battle rages on, the mythic Aquarian sheds its rustiness to reveal shining armor. Just then, the abductor knocks Aquarian Spada to the ground and grabs the mythic Aquarian, flying into the dimensional gate. Kagura grabs Mikono and enters his armor, flying into the dimensional gate with her. Shrade approaches Kreia, pleading for one more chance to use his strength. He reminds her that she must have known a day like this would come when she scouted him. Kreia kisses Shrade's hands and gives him permission to do what he wants. Amata jumps into his vector machine and follows Kagura into the dimensional gate, with Shrade doing the same. Zessica appears behind them, and Amata is surprised to see that she is still alive. With 3 vector machines, the trio merges to become Aquarian Spada. As they merge, a battle begins while traveling through the dimensional gate. Shrade boosts Aquarian's power, allowing it to cut the abductor in 2. The explosion causes Aquarian to split back into the individual vector machines, leaving Shrade completely weak from using so much of his power. Meanwhile, those on Altair are prepared for their arrival. Izumo orders the military to stay on standby, as they cannot allow Kagura to keep Mikono all to himself. Back on Vega, Zen informs everyone that the awakening of the mythic Aquarian has disrupted the balance that existed between Altair and Vega. The world is heading toward impending doom, but Zen reassures Kreia that the mythic Aquarian will not activate unless there is a chosen element. Shrade realizes that they won't make it through the gate unless they merge. Even though he is in no condition to do so, he knows he must for the sake of his friends. They merge and become Aquarian, giving them a chance to make it through the dimensional gate. Back in Vega, Kreia has gathered everyone together to share something important. Zen informs them that he is about to tell the myth that has been passed down for 24,000 years. He lifts his eye patch to reveal that he has always had the Book of the Twin Stars with him. The team finds themselves inside a giant book, ready for Kreia to narrate the story and how it unfolds. Shrade, Zessica, and Amata will also be able to see and hear everything as Kreia tells the tale. The first chapter takes place 24,000 years ago, when the angel Apollonius fell in love with the human Selene. Apollonius used the mechanical angel, the mythic Aquarian, to protect mankind and drive away the angels. The shadow angel, Toma, who was Apollonius's fiancée, harbored feelings of both hatred and love for him because of his betrayal. Another being, the winged dog Pollen, also fell in love with Selene. However, Pollen knows that Selene will never love him back because he is a dog. He wishes to be reincarnated as a human when he returns to the world. This chapter ends with Toma's hatred and Pollen's love. The second chapter begins 12,000 years ago, when people fought against the angels using the mechanical angel and the knowledge that had been passed down to them. The person who operated the mechanical angel at that time was a young man named Apollo. Meanwhile, Kagura has arrived in Altair, but is met with heavy resistance from the military. Continuing with the story, Apollo is the reincarnation of the winged dog Pollen, and his lover Selene has also been reincarnated as Sylvia. Through fate, they meet again. However, Toma has also been reincarnated in this era, and he aims to destroy everything that Apollonius built. Toma's hatred has led to the destruction of the Shadow Angels. The team in Vega is now immersed in the ancient myth, gaining a deeper understanding of the cyclical nature of the conflict between Vega and Altair. Now, it is time for the third chapter of the story. This chapter focuses on the present day and the events currently unfolding. When the Tree of Life died, it disrupted the balance of the world, causing the Earth to split into 2. These 2 pieces are now known as Vega and Altair, which were originally one land. In this era, Pollen has been reincarnated as Alicia's child. However, someone else was reincarnated before him and retains all his memories. This person is Toma, who still seeks revenge. He used his power to split the reincarnation of Pollen, who is Amata, into 2 so he can use them for his own revenge. In this era, Toma is none other than Maikaj. Sylvia has also been reincarnated as Mikono. This is where the story ends for now, and it is up to the team to write the remaining chapters. Mikono wakes up in Kagura's arms and immediately apologizes for not realizing his feelings. At that moment, Shrade finally finds the right tune for his music. He creates a perfect melody that helps his friends escape the dimensional gate. As he plays, He recalls his entire life. Aquarian splits apart, and Schrade dies in the dimensional gate. Cayenne feels Schrade's death from Vega, and cries for his lost friend and rival. The myth for the future is now written in blood. Zessica and her Vector arrive in Altair, and she begins searching for Amata. She encounters My Cage, who tells her it's time to fulfill her promise. He takes control of her body and traps her in the soul realm. Izumo and the abductors find Kagura, who is with Mikono, and demand that he hand her over, but Kagura refuses. Just as he is about to eliminate Kagura, Zessica arrives. Unbeknownst to them, the figure before them is Mikage, not Zessica. Zessica tells Kagura that he is the chosen one, and should summon the mythic Aquarian. Kagura follows her advice, and the mythic Aquarian appears. Mikage, Mikono, and Kagura enter the Aquarian and confront Izumo and his men. Mikage is pleased that everything is going according to his plan. Back on Vega, the team is concerned about the world becoming imbalanced. They haven't heard from Amata or the others. They need to reach Altair, but there is no gate available. Just then, Andy declares that he will find a way. He once created a gate by accident, but this time he will do it intentionally. He asks the director for permission, and she grants it. Meanwhile, in Altair, the mythic Aquarian is surrounded by abductors. With a single strike, it destroys all the abductors, leaving only Izumo. Izumo realizes the mythic Aquarian is powerful, but he believes his Genis can match it. He absorbs the damage from the Aquarian and retaliates. Kagura uses his reversal power to block the attack, resulting in a standoff between them. Suddenly, Mix arrives to support Izumo. Mikono is surprised to see her. Back on Vega, Cayenne, Malloy, and Andy set out. Driven by his determination to save his lover, Andy successfully creates the dimensional gate. In Altair, Mix hears someone calling her name, but she resists because she has become someone else. Kagura punches her, and Mikono tells him to stop, insisting that Mix is her friend. Izumo retaliates and delivers a fatal blow to the mythic Aquarian. Meanwhile, Amata wakes up to a voice calling him and moves toward it. The battle between the machines continues. Kagura knocks Mix to the ground and prepares to deliver a finishing blow when Andy and his team arrive in Aquarian Gapart. Cayenne confirms with fake Zessica that Schrade is truly dead. Andy attempts to reach out to Mix with his words, but she refuses to listen. A fight breaks out between the two. The mythic Aquarian continues to attack Izumo. Izumo asks Kagura if he doesn't want to save Altair, and Kagura says yes. Kagura only cares about his woman, Mikono. As long as he has Mikono, he doesn't care if the world ends. Amata reaches the pod station and finds out that his mother, Alicia, is the one calling out to him. The fight between Andy and Mix continues, and Mix is starting to remember the good memories she had with Andy. In the cryo station, Amata yells at his mother, Alicia, for abandoning him all this time. Alicia says she is not asking for Amata's forgiveness, but she will tell him why she left. Alicia reveals that Amata's father is Izumo, which shocks Amata. Alicia then narrates how she met Izumo. Izumo came to Vega when their women died out and his aircraft crashed. Alicia found him and cared for him. They got close, and Izumo later returned to Altair without telling the authorities. However, he was sure that Mikage knew what was going on. Izumo later returned after a few years, and Alicia had given birth to Amata. Izumo told her about what they are facing on Altair, and Alicia volunteered to go because she loves Izumo. She didn't want to take Amata with her because she didn't want to put him in danger. Upon hearing this, Amata reveals that he had always been angry at Alicia, but he has now forgiven her. He understands why she left him. Izumo is still battling Kagura. Izumo tells Kagura that he cannot lose to him because he is not ready to let Alicia's sacrifice go to waste. Just then, Izumo takes all the energy from the city into his machine, making him extremely powerful and dangerous. He fires a warning shot that the mythic Aquarian finds hard to dodge. He tells Kagura to give up or he will finish him off. Seeing this, Mikage takes control of the mythic Aquarian and shoots towards the cryo station where Alicia is. This distracts Izumo, and he flies in the direction of the cryo station. The explosion eliminates Alicia, but Amata manages to make it out of there. Amata is now vengeful because of his mother's death. Because Izumo has his back turned on Kagura, Mikage tells him to end Kagura when he has the chance. Kagura penetrates Izumo's armor with the Mugen Punch, which seems to be the end of Izumo. However, Izumo shocks them when he makes a U-turn and fires off a powerful blast that splits the mythic Aquarian into vector machines. The machines fall off, and Izumo also crash lands near the cryo station. Amata runs toward his father's crash site and helps Izumo up, telling him that he now knows everything. Izumo apologizes for taking Alicia away from Amata. Just then, Izumo notices the presence of mayflies in the area, which he says disappeared when the women also died out. He realizes that the construction of the Iron Sea City was the cause of the women's deaths, as the city has been drawing the mother's energy from the planet, causing the females to die off. Izumo falls to the ground, feeling that his whole life has been futile. He passes on with this in mind, but Alicia's spirit appears to him and takes him away. Amata can also see his mother's spirit. Alicia assures Izumo that his effort will not be in vain, as their son, Amada, will reunite the two worlds. Amada is now only thinking about revenge. He blames Kagura for taking away the two people he has always longed for, and he is determined to never forgive Kagura for this. Elsewhere, Kagura wakes up inside his vector machine and immediately starts looking for Mikono. He looks back to see Amada's vector coming toward him. Amada is coming with a vengeful heart, and Kagura can even feel it. Amada blames him for killing their father, Izumo, who is now dead because of Kagura. Amada transforms into an incomplete mechanical angel and knocks Kagura to the rock. Kagura realizes that he is one with Amada, which means he should be able to transform just like him. Kagura transforms into an incomplete mechanical angel, just like Amada, and the battle continues. With the two soul fragments against each other, Altair leaves its orbit and starts moving toward Vega, which is clearly visible in Vega's atmosphere. Meanwhile, Andy is still battling with Mix. He is trying to get her to come back to her senses, and he has used so much of his power, but Mix is still rejecting him. Cayenne tells Andy to be careful because he might pass out from the excessive use of his power. Andy pins Mix to a rock and comes out of the machine, walking toward Mix. He tries to reach Mix with his words, but it is not working. Mix is about to terminate Andy when he talks about filling up the big hole in her heart. This immediately triggers Mix's memories, and she comes back to her senses, remembering who Andy is. Mix is shy to face Andy, but he assures her that he will always be with her no matter who she is. He is ready to stay with her even if she is a guy. Andy and Mix are finally ready to merge after all this while, but Kreia substitutes them with Yunoha. The fight between Kagura and Amata continues. Amata condemns Kagura for having everything he ever wanted on Altair, and still going ahead to ruin it. Kagura then reveals that he had no idea that their parents were on Altair. He was raised by Maikage, who treated him like a slave, and Kagura never felt comfortable with Maikage. Kagura punches Amata into the river, but Amata comes back out because of his will to punish Kagura. With Altair getting closer to Vega, Kreia leaves her seat to find Zen. Zen knows what Maikage is trying to do. He wants to merge the two worlds together to become the ruler. Kreia asks Zen if he wants Maikage to succeed with his plan, but Zen disappears instead of answering. As the battle between Kagura and Amata continues, Mikono wakes up in one of the vector machines and sees the two fighting. She is hurt by this, and says the two should not be fighting. She takes off and goes after the two, but Maikage intercepts her. He tells her that she will be merging with him, not the two. Mikono finally realizes that Maikage has taken over Zessica's body. Maikage narrates how he was betrayed by his love, Apollonius, when Apollo brought the offer for them to merge and save the world. Maikage thought Apollo was the reincarnation of Apollonius, but during the merging, he realized he was wrong and was betrayed by Apollonius twice. Maikage reveals that the reason he wants to create a world of his own and be the ruler is because he was betrayed by his love, Apollonius, when Apollo brought the offer for them to merge and save the world. Maikage forcefully merges with Mikono. Amata and Kagura hear her scream. Maikage transforms into an incomplete Aquarian and starts to take in all the energy in Altair. Just then, Malloy, Cayenne, and Yunoha arrive. Malloy tells Amata to take his place and merge with the team. Amata accepts the offer, and they merge into Aquarian Evil. Amata charges toward Maikage, but Maikage easily repels his attacks and mocks Amata for thinking he can defeat him with such a weak machine. Maikage forces Kagura to bend to his will and takes over his vector forcefully too. With this, Maikage has 3 parts, and he transforms into a dark Aquarian, standing tall in the sky. The stage is now set for the final battle between Maikage and the team, Dark Aquarian versus Aquarian Evil. Amata throws the Mugen Punch at Maikage, but Maikage easily catches the punch and replies with 4 attack punches that leave Amata and his team shaking. Kagura wakes up in the labyrinth of Maikage's mind and sees Zessica, who is also trapped inside Maikage's mind. She asks Kagura to terminate her so Maikage will no longer be able to operate. This is the only sacrifice she can make for Amata, she says, as her love for Amata is strong, but she doesn't want Amata to lose Mikono. Maikage currently has Amata and his team in a chokehold. Amata and his team are already scared that the merging will be cancelled if it continues. Kagura holds Zessica's neck and presses it tight, and as life starts to leave Zessica's body, Maikage is affected by this and forced to release Amata and his team. Just then, Kagura changes his mind and doesn't want Zessica to die for Amata. Maikage gets angry and says he doesn't need Zessica or Kagura again, as he already has Mikono, who is the absolute power, and she is the one he needs to merge with. He then awakens a dark sun that covers Vega. Everywhere starts to get hot, and it will make everything dry up if care is not taken. Cayenne and Yunoha are forcibly ejected, canceling the merging. Amata has no way of fighting Maikage with just one vector machine. Just then, Mix and Andy show up to support him. To make things easier, Shrade's soul also provides melody for the team. Zessica and Malloy also join the fight. To make everything complete, Director Kreia also volunteers to pilot one of the machines and merge with them. Cayenne and Yunoha return to their machines as well. They now have more than enough hands to fight My Cage, and Shrade continues to help the team with the melody of his soul. They all merge together to form their respective Aquarian. Even with all hands on deck, My Cage appears to be tougher than expected. Several attacks are thrown at the machine, but he easily takes in the damage. Amada is not ready to give up and continues to charge at My Cage. My Cage is forced to extend his arms and draw the two planets to each other, starting to suck the life out of them. In My Cage's mind, Mikono sees an image of My Cage in pain. He feels betrayed because Mikono took away the person he loves. She gets scared and turns away, but Zen appears to her and tells her to continue watching because there are things she needs to see. After Zen has said this, he disappears again. My Cage punches Amada's Aquarian and forces it to split up. Zesika and Kagura see this and jump in to assist. Amada is surprised to see the two, and he thanks them both for their help. They merge together to become Aquarian evil once again. In My Cage's mind, Mikono can clearly see how much My Cage loves Apollonius. Mikono realizes that she has been the cause of the breakage between the two. She faces My Cage and apologizes to him, telling him that he can do whatever he wants to her, but he should spare those in the world. Amada comes rushing, and Zesika and Kagura provide support for him, but My Cage shoots them away with an energy blast. The elements get thrown away, and Amada finds himself flying in a soul state. Just then, Jin's voice resonates with Yunoha, reminding her that they are always together, and he didn't leave. Yunoha powers up the machine and shoots a powerful blast at My Cage. Amada continues drifting in the soul state, but the voices of his friends call out to him. His parents' voices also call out to him at that moment, and Amada snaps out of the state and activates his wings. He is able to carry Aquarian and easily move around My Cage. Kagura also provides support to Amada. Even with all the obstacles in front of him, Amada is able to escape them and grab Mikono away from My Cage. The Aquarian's name changes from Evol to Love. The tears from their eyes soak the planet and reverse the effect of the dark sun. Their love also connects the two planets together, and the torn-apart worlds are connected because of Amada and Mikono's love for each other. My Cage's soul is evicted, and he flies through space. He gets caught in Zen's hands, and it turns out that Zen is the Apollonius of this era. Apollonius places My Cage in his heart so he can continue to sleep there, even though Apollonius has betrayed him twice. After the dust has settled, Amada emerges from the water carrying Mikono in his hands. Everyone, including Kagura, rushes over to meet them. Zen appears and tells everyone that the ban on romance is now officially lifted. With this, Amada and Mikono's love rewrites the myth from 24,000 years ago and sets everything straight.